Hi and welcome to Prairie Life. Today we're just south of Moose Jaw and we're on the hunt to solve a mystery. How does an ocean-faring ship like this get to be in the middle of the prairie, and where was it going? Stick with me to the end of the video to find out how the man who built this ship predicted everything that would happen to it in the last 70 years. Our story begins in Finland, where Thomas Sukanen was born. He became a sailor, learning the craft of sailing and shipbuilding. At the age of 20, he immigrated to Minnesota and had a family. He worked in the iron ore mines until things went awry, and in 1911 he set out for Saskatchewan, where new dreams and free land were still available. He left his wife and children and walked over 1,400 kilometers, or almost 900 miles, from Minnesota to the Prairie district north of Moose Jaw. Sukanen found his brother and filed a claim on a nearby piece of land. By all accounts, Tom Sukanen was a prosperous farmer. His crops did well, and he was active in the social life of his community. After 11 years, he returned home to Minnesota, but his wife was gone, and his children were in foster homes. But by then, it was the 1930s, and the Great Depression had begun. While crops perished in the field and hopes of farmers along with them, as his neighbors withdrew or quietly closed their buildings and moved away, Tom boldly spent the last of his fortune ordering sheets of iron, bags of bolts, cables, and other tools to build his steamship dream. His neighbors could hear his hammer echoing and see the glow of his forge every night, and they were worried. Maybe it was a long ago promise to his mother, or maybe it was his finished resolve, but Tom could see his dream as plain as day. Soon he would sail up the Saskatchewan rivers, through the Churchill River system to Hudson's Bay, around northern Quebec and on to Finland, where he would sail into the harbor at Helsinki in a ship he built with his own two hands. What haunted his dreams? What crept into his nights? Was it youth and strength? Was it love, won and lost? Does he dare to dream of the future? And does he dream of going home? Vandals looted his place, knocking the ship apart, and in the process they managed to destroy years of Sukanen's life. He never recovered. By 1941, out of care and concern, relatives and authorities found a very ill Sukanen at his farm and had him admitted to the mental hospital in North Battleford, where he died 2 years later. The ship lay in pieces for more than 30 years, reduced to little more than a wild story, and might have been forgotten if not for Laurence Mullin, who chased down the stories until he found the ship itself. In 1972, Mullin arranged to have Sukanen's ship hauled to an emerging pioneer village where it was assembled and restored. Volunteers built a small chapel beside it in Sukanen's memory. Soon after, his body was moved from North Battleford and buried next to his ship. Tom Sukanen's dream is now a featured display at the museum, and thousands of tourists tour the ship every year. You can see a bicycle he built for himself, and some of the tools that he made and used. You can imagine the pride that Sukanen felt as you walk the steps into the cabin of the ship. Look around and see the artifacts displayed and how the volunteers imagined it may have looked. Staring out the window, it's easy to see the similarities between the broad horizon on the prairies and the horizon you may have seen at sea. Volunteers have taken painstaking efforts to replicate how the ship may have looked using materials that were appropriate and available at the time. The Sukanen Ship and Pioneer Village Museum has grown and grown. The museum has nearly 50 display buildings and numerous storage buildings, which represent early settlers, the coming of the railway, the building of grain elevators, and the development of pioneer towns. And as promised, here's the prediction made by Tom Sukanen, which came true in 1972. Mullin came across a letter Tom wrote to his sister in Massachusetts. The letter said, 4 times there will be men who try to raise and assemble this ship. 3 times they will fail, but a 4th man will succeed. He will start the raising of my ship, and it will sail across the prairies at speeds unheard of in this day and age, and will disappear in a mighty roar. My ship will go up, and I shall rest in peace. Mullin found out later that 3 attempts had been made by others to buy and remove the remains of the ship, and they either ran out of money or they gave up in disgust. When the museum came for the ship with a flatbed truck, the legacy and prediction most certainly came true.